What if I told you Lewis Hamilton's toughest fight this season isn't with Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, or even Charles Leclerc, but instead with something deeper, a battle hidden inside the very culture of Ferrari? The official story from Maranello is that everything simply requires patience, that Hamilton just needs time to adapt. But insiders whisper a far more troubling tale, one of resistance, politics, and a clash over who gets to dictate how the SF25 should be driven. Former F1 firebrand Juan Pablo Montoya didn't sugarcoat his view. He bluntly said Hamilton has his own driving style, but Ferrari's engineers keep telling him that's not how their car is designed to be handled. Think about that for a moment. A 7-time world champion, arguably one of the greatest to ever touch a steering wheel, being told to unlearn the very habits that made him a legend. Doesn't that sound completely backwards? And yet here we are, with 14 races gone and Hamilton still without a podium, not a single spray of champagne in Ferrari red, while Leclerc has 5 to his name. The numbers scream failure, yet Ferrari's public face keeps whispering excuses, urging fans to be patient. But is this really about patience, or is it about pride? Pride that clings to control even when it costs them lap time. Because beneath the surface, the whispers are getting louder. Hamilton isn't failing to adapt, he's being forced to conform. And that, some suggest, isn't just inefficient. It borders on sabotage by tradition. What we're witnessing is nothing less than a silent war over the soul of the SF25. Hamilton, though, is starting to push back. Let's be clear, he didn't join Ferrari to be a student. He came to lead. Yet inside Maranello, some engineers still treat him like the one who needs lessons. According to multiple paddock whispers and internal leaks, parts of Ferrari's technical group have resisted key setup changes requested by Hamilton's camp, particularly concerning rear stability and steering responsiveness. One source summed it up bluntly: they want him to drive like Charles. But here's the problem, he's not Charles. Data from practice sessions shows Hamilton prefers aggressive brake migration and a sharper front-end response, traits consistent with his Mercedes days. But Ferrari's philosophy, refined for Leclerc's smoother mid-corner style, isn't bending easily. Requests to tweak differential preload or rear suspension dampers are frequently dismissed with the excuse of not in the protocol. And even when minor changes are approved, they often get reversed overnight without explanation. That isn't adaptation, that's outright resistance. And it's not only about engineering tools, it's about trust. When engineers send the subtle signal of "our car, our way," they're not just dismissing feedback, they're dismissing a champion. Behind closed doors, Hamilton's patience is being tested, not by lap times, but by silence, by stonewalling. And in Formula One, silence is often where revolutions begin. On the outside, Charles Leclerc's season looks strong. 5 podiums, 1 pole position, consistent top 5 finishes. But behind those stats lies a storm Ferrari doesn't want exposed. Because every time Leclerc delivers results while Hamilton struggles, it strengthens a dangerous perception within the garage that Leclerc's way is the right way, and any attempt to shift the car toward Hamilton's style becomes a political risk. Hungary was a prime example. Leclerc started on pole, led the first half of the race, but then his pace suddenly vanished. George Russell speculated Ferrari had raised his tire pressures in the final stint to protect the floor, sacrificing grip. Former F1 technical boss Gary Anderson laughed off that theory, calling it nonsense. Still, no clear reason was ever given for Leclerc's dramatic drop-off. And that's exactly the problem. When things go wrong for Leclerc, they're brushed off as mysteries. When things go wrong for Hamilton, they're portrayed as failures. Inside Ferrari, those narratives matter. They shape who gets listened to, who gets the benefit of the doubt. Leclerc may be the golden boy, Ferrari's long-term project, but Hamilton is a global icon. That makes every suggestion from Lewis feel like a challenge to the old hierarchy. And when politics masquerades as performance, sabotage isn't a conspiracy, it becomes procedure. A crack in the facade appeared during Monaco. Hamilton, after a frustrating cool-down lap, asked over the radio, "Are you upset with me or something?" It sounded emotional, maybe even out of character. But what came next was more telling. Silence. No comforting reply, no technical explanation, nothing. And that silence came from his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, the man who should be his lifeline. Publicly, Ferrari brushed it off. Fred Vasseur explained, "We don't talk between turn 1 and the tunnel." But the problem? This wasn't turn 1. It was after the race. Silence after a direct question isn't protocol, it's a fracture. From Hamilton's sarcastic tea break remark in Miami to the vague mid-race calls that leave him chasing ghosts, the radio tells a story very different from Ferrari's press releases. It tells a story of tension, miscommunication, mistrust. It paints a picture of an engineer who either won't or can't connect with the driver he's meant to guide. And the silence, it doesn't just hang between driver and engineer. It echoes between Ferrari's ambition and its execution. Because if a team can't even get the voice in a champion's ear right, what else are they getting wrong? The truth, according to insiders, is that this isn't even new. It's simply louder now, impossible to ignore. Inside Maranello's data rooms, two stories circulate. The polished public one says Hamilton just needs more time. The whispered one among engineers suggests Hamilton's data is starting to threaten Leclerc's comfort zone. In back-to-back stints at Hungary and Spa, telemetry revealed what Ferrari PR won't admit. Hamilton's race pace is often stronger, even when running compromised setups. At Spa, data showed Hamilton managing tire wear more effectively in a high downforce configuration, despite being underfueled, a fact Hamilton himself openly revealed after the race, shattering Ferrari's usual media script. At Imola, Hamilton even overtook Leclerc on track. No team orders, no DRS gimmicks, just pure instinct and confidence. Yet after that race, celebrations were muted. The debrief room split. Leclerc with strategists, Hamilton left largely isolated with just Adami and a couple of data engineers. One insider put it plainly, the data scared them. Not because it was wrong, but because it was undeniable. And here's the twist. Adami, once seen as firmly in Leclerc's camp, has started quietly shifting. Word around the paddock is that he's been pushing Hamilton's feedback harder behind the scenes. Carefully, subtly, but it's there. And that's why tension is rising. Because the numbers no longer justify the hierarchy. And when data collides with status in Formula One, only one survives. After Spa, Hamilton's demeanor shifted. Gone was the cautious patience of earlier races. Post-race, he dropped the PR filter and said it outright. "We underfueled for the wing we had. No blame, just exposure." With that single sentence, he cracked Ferrari's wall of silence. Insiders say it sparked emergency meetings at Maranello. Not about setup changes, but about optics. A senior engineer reportedly described Hamilton's words as a declaration of independence. Because he hadn't just exposed a strategy error, he exposed Ferrari's internal fracture. And by speaking out, he forced the team to respond. Since then, strategy briefings have changed. Hamilton now gets earlier access to race simulations. His feedback isn't just logged, it's being acted upon. The simulator now runs his setups in parallel with Leclerc's, not as test options, but as serious alternatives. After Spa, a new torque delivery model went live in Ferrari's sim, one Hamilton had been pushing for since China. Leclerc hadn't even requested it, and wasn't briefed until days later. This marks a new balance of power. Hamilton isn't demanding control, he's earning it. One correction at a time, one breakthrough at a time. Ferrari's old guard are slowly realizing that silence no longer protects the system. It exposes it. The reality is Ferrari is starting to resemble two teams pretending to be one. On one side, Hamilton's camp, data-driven, methodical, aiming for precision and repeatability. On the other, Leclerc's camp, instinctive, emotional, and favored by the old hierarchy. And now, that divide seeps into everything: simulator priorities, engineering assignments, even race day protocols. After Hungary and Spa, a clear pattern emerged. Hamilton's input increasingly sets the direction. Torque curves adjusted, brake bias windows widened, throttle maps rebalanced, all changes that trace back to his requests. Meanwhile, frustration is reportedly growing in Leclerc's camp. Engineers who once prioritized his preferences are now spending more time verifying Hamilton's. It's not malicious. It's simple. Proof carries more weight than politics. Hamilton's analysis keeps yielding gains. Leclerc's less so. And without openly declaring anything, Ferrari is drifting toward the louder, stronger data stream. This isn't yet a civil war, but it is an ideological split. And no amount of PR spin can cover it forever. With Monza approaching, the cathedral of speed, Ferrari's home temple. The risk isn't just poor performance. It's a team forced to reveal where their loyalties truly lie. Monza won't just be another race. It could be a battlefield, not against Red Bull or McLaren, but inside Ferrari itself. Why? Because the internal divide is now impossible to ignore. Two drivers, two philosophies, one team being pulled in opposite directions. Hamilton arrives at Monza not simply as a driver chasing results, but as a force reshaping Ferrari from within. His feedback now directly feeds into simulations. His data increasingly sets the baseline for setups. His voice is shifting the engineering culture, and Leclerc feels it. Sources say he's even asked for discreet oversight of setup adjustments, not to improve them, but to monitor how the car is evolving away from his style. Engineers, meanwhile, are caught in the middle. Trust Hamilton's vision and risk angering the old hierarchy. Stand by Leclerc and risk ignoring what the data clearly shows. It's a tightrope, and in front of the Tifosi, any misstep will echo louder than an engine failure. So the question now looms over Maranello like a storm cloud. Who does Ferrari truly build around? The legacy of Leclerc or the precision of Hamilton? One has history, the other is already proving results. But in a sport where perception can become reality, the driver who conquers Monza may not just win the race. They may seize control of Ferrari's future.